Right, so we'll-
Okay, good evening everyone and welcome to the November 18th, 2025 meeting of the Newcastle Town Board. The board has been in executive session. We apologize for starting a bit late. May I have a motion to open the public work session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are gonna start off the work session with quarterly financials.
Alright, good evening everyone. Back at it a little bit later than usual because of our budget process, but this is our regularly quarterly follow-up on where we are budgetarily for 2025. I think Lauren's got the slides, if Lauren's able to pull them up there, and you have them in your work packets as well. I'll wait for them to- For most of the board, I think a lot of these items we probably went over during the budget process itself, as we were reviewing the current year to date where many of these lines stood. And just a reminder before we jump into this is only through September, so in many of these cases, we have seen some other payments come in or payments be made. I'll point those out as we go through there, but this is only the numbers through September 30th. So if you're looking at it from a linear projection, we'd be looking for things to be around 75% as you just sort of go across. And here we go. So I'll start off with the general fund. As you can see on the slide, as of 9:30, our expenses were at about 19 million or 70% of our budget, and our revenues were 20,635,000, about 76% of the budget. So as I said, linearly, kind of on that trend line. Of course, we like to see revenues being a bit higher than expenses, so always positive there. On the next page, jumping a little bit further on the expense highlights. Several of these you saw in the second quarter update, namely the bond principal. That's just a timing due to the bond payments. Those are done now for the year, so those are fully expended. Police overtime is new. That number is largely driven by police protection requests. So for example, the road work that you see happening on Bedford Road where there is a police officer helping with traffic direction, we are being reimbursed or we are billing Con Edison for that and getting a significant amount of revenue. I think the last check I saw just came in last week. But so while overtime is up, you'll see on the next page, police protection revenue is up as well. And recreation supplies, this again a continuation from the second quarter report. The supplies and the camp costs are up, but so is our revenue. So these are mostly tied together.
Yeah, I'll mention that part of the reason is that we added another bus to the travel camp this year. So that added a significant amount on the expense side, but also on the revenue side.
Correct. And while 140% or 213% number may look a little scary when it comes to the scope of it, the scale of it compared to the revenues, it's not nearly as scary, and we'll see that on the next page when we get there. Before we jump off of this, state retirement still outstanding. Unfortunately, our last payment will be due shortly.
December 15th.
Yeah, so we just got the invoice in, we'll make that payment at that time, but those will be anticipated before the end of the year, so still sizable coming through. On the revenue side, as I said, the recreation program's up in line with that, and again, 140% of 172,000 when it comes to the scope and the size of it. We're talking about revenue of 1.2 million. So percentages don't tell the only story, you need to look at the dollar numbers too. We are up when it comes to the camps and the recreation programs. Building permits continue to pace. We have not seen any sort of decline there. In fact, we are now over our projected budgeted revenues for the entire year as of the third quarter.
Is that no longer driven by, or still being driven by Reader's Digest, or is it way past?
I don't think that we've seen many Reader's Digest permits coming through. I think we've closed out most of them at this point.
We're close. There's a handful left that I think that remain,
Yeah.
but for the most part. That revenue source will end, but we've got the department as a whole is just very busy and
People are buying houses and immediately beginning projects.
Yep.
It is not the case where an increase in the price, the market price for a house has driven down people doing projects. So
I think Jeremy's question, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that we were saying that the building permits were up because of the Chappaqua Crossing project. We're attributing it to that, so I think it's a good question, good to note that they've maintained their
Yeah,
their
they've
current
maintained that,
increase.
and we projected going forward over the next couple of years with 50 North Greeley coming online, there will be fees associated with that, and there's other building projects in the development department that are bringing in fees too. So it's, yes, correct, over a period of years, we had 91 building permits to issue there for the residential alone. And prior to that, we had commercial building permits to issue, so but we do think that the permit revenue is gonna remain strong going into next year.
my apologies, I took that question to be, do we think it's going to dry up now that the Chappaqua Crossings is done, and I don't think that's the case. I think it will probably be consistent going forward, and I think that's reflected in the 2026 budgeted revenue, where we see I think a conservative increase in that line, nothing crazy, but reflecting that we still see a strong market for that.
Yeah, and that was based on our conversations with the development department and kind of what's in the pipeline, what they see ahead.
Correct. To continue forward, police protection, as I mentioned, already at 105% of the annual budget, and again, only through 9/30, we continue to bill Con Edison and receive payments from them for their use of our police officers at the Bedford Road work.
Carl,
Yes.
is that a 1-for-1? We bill for exactly what we pay?
I would have to check with.
No, it's not. So it's a rate that includes fringe benefits for staff as well as equipment costs. So there's a rate that we come up with each year that we bill outside entities, primarily the utility companies that request our police officers. So it's not a 1-for-1. And I'll say in that police protection line, there's a budgeted amount each year, it's a $500,000 give or take. That's the amount that the school district reimburses the town, so that's the amount that we know that we're guaranteed based on the contract. Why that number goes over budget is because we never know when we're gonna get a request from a utility to provide traffic control or how long it's gonna be. So you will see an increase on the expense, an increase on the revenue side. But that's why the baseline for that police protection line is the school resource officers.
And not to take us too far off topic, but is it just completely at the utility's discretion as to whether they want to hire?
It's the type of work that they may be doing and if it's some of these tree companies, if they're in town for a day or half a day and they're cutting down a tree, they probably won't. If it's a longer term project like Con Edison, where they're doing tree work or pole replacement or gas line replacement, they typically do require. And that would be, that's a decision that I think is left to Bart and to the police chief as to whether or not they would recommend that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
And then finally, before we go into the notable categories, interest earnings, as of 9/30, we're at 124% of our budgeted revenue in the general fund, 431,000. And that's again sort of a repeat of our second quarter update. We've been very fortunate to be in a positive cash position in the town and able to reinvest those funds in a vehicle called NY Class, which is open to us as a municipality of New York State. And we have taken advantage of the very competitive interest rates there. How much longer we continue to be able to take advantage of those remains to be seen. We've seen 2 rate cuts already this year, very least 2 in the time I've been overseeing the funds. So we are continuing to see interest revenue. It is slowing down though. So it isn't something that we should be balancing our budget on by any stretch, but it is good to be able to take advantage of that. So, and you'll see that across the other funds as well. Notable categories outstanding in the general fund that we anticipate receiving: sales tax distribution. This is only 2 of the 4 payments that's reflected here. The 3rd payment came in last week. About 1.2 million, give or take. We're on target to exceed the sales tax budget amount within our budget, assuming that the fourth quarter ends up anything like it did last year. And mortgage tax as well, we're anticipating, I believe, 2 more payments on that as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so alright. Any other questions there?
Actually, I do have a question about
Yeah.
the sales tax.
Absolutely.
You know, we're talking about the vacancies in town and things like that, so is the sales tax that we get based on the actual sales in town, or is it just a portion of what's collected? How is that allocated?
It's a portion of what's collected throughout the county outside of, and I don't know, Rob, if you know the municipalities that have preempted, I don't.
White
have
Plains,
those.
Yonkers, it's the cities, Peekskill,
Okay, so all the
Yeah.
cities have, so any of the towns mostly.
But it's a percentage that the county
Yeah,
gives to
based
the
on-
localities,
on
it's like 4%,
population.
what is their, it's a pretty generous percentage.
It's based on the population, so they take it, our population here as a percentage of the overall population of the market, I guess exempting the cities. And then it's all the sales tax collected through the county, it's not just what's collected in the town.
So, and I just note at this point as well that the town has been I don't know if conservative is the right word, but cautious in the way that we have used and budgeted for sales tax in order to balance the budget. Sales tax has kind of exploded over the last few years, particularly as internet sales became eligible to be taxed and municipalities have started receiving it. I know that there's been some talk of, maybe not doom and gloom, but talk about how sales tax revenues aren't keeping a pace with budgeted amounts. That is not the case here. We've been much more cautious and much more conservative. We are on pace to, as I said, exceed what our current budgeted amounts are. Other governments may not have been, but we are. So we're in a very fortunate case where we're not seeing a budget shortfall throughout the year. So,
And that's, we've talked about this before, and the auditor mentions too, we budget conservatively for most things because it's very difficult to make up revenue. It's difficult to get to November at this time and look at these numbers and say, we're short on revenue, what do we do? What can you do at this point? There aren't many expenses that you could cut in the final 2 months of the year to make up for a revenue shortfall.
alright, so moving on to highway fund, our 2025 budget is about $6 million, our expenses at 70% of the total budget as of 9/30 and revenue at 86.9% of the budget. Moving into the expense highlights, again, repeat from the second quarter, mostly bond principal and overtime. Overtime largely driven by snow removal overtime within the first quarter of the year. So again, that has remained flat since the second quarter update. Notable expenses remaining, the road paving program, we've only paid about 50% of those invoices so far. I believe we're just waiting on final closeout documentation to pay the remaining 50%, and state retirement, again, we will make that payment in December, so that will come due as well. No areas where we think we will see massive savings within the expenses. When it comes to revenues, on the next page, again, same story with the interest earnings in the general fund. We're at 286% of our annual budget, so we continue to take advantage of that there. And snow and ice removal, right now, we are working on reconciling the state payments for snow and ice removal. We receive compensation from the state for work done on state roads. The county is very good about paying us in a timely manner. We're currently chasing down the state on some of those payments, so I do anticipate those coming in. We believe we found one, we're trying to find a second one at this point.
And the board just approved at the last meeting the revised number for, I think, the 25-26 season.
Yes.
They revised it upwards, a couple thousand, 8,000, I think,
Yeah.
from their original estimate.
So Bart's been in contact with the state, and we're trying to reconcile all of this. I think we'll do just fine. Notable categories outstanding, the CHIPS state aid, the full amount is outstanding. We submitted the claim when the town board approved the road program earlier this year. It was higher than the 425,000 increase there. We did submit to the state for 539,000, so that should be coming in shortly. And then I forgot to remove the appropriated fund balance line here. We don't appropriate the fund balance until the end of the year, just so we don't over appropriate what we need. So there's $100,000 that, depending on how other revenues look and how expenses look, we may or may not need. Moving on to refuse fund. This fund has seen almost all of its revenue come in already, 97.9%, and expenses at 67.8% of budget. Digging into the expenses, again, bond principal is the only one that really sticks out, that we're at 100% of the total payments that we have to make, and then notable expenses outstanding. Transfer site charges, we still see probably about another 267,000 of those coming through, and state retirement remains consistent here as well. That will all just be paid out in December. For revenues, as I mentioned, most of our annual revenue has been received. Interest, again, leading the way, well above budget, 416%. Compost and mulch sales, I think as Mike mentioned during the budget hearing for the refuse fund, we are seeing a lot of demand for the compost and mulch sales. So that doubled this year what our anticipated budget was, which is great. And I think to that end, the horizontal grinder assisted in getting a lot more of that out the door. And then yard waste revenue has reached the full budget capacity. So refuse, if only all the funds were as easy as refuse, it seems. And finally, the water fund, 2025 budget of about 10 million, and we're at 62% of the budget for expenses and revenues at 72%. If you'll remember from the second quarter update, this fund was a little more anemic at that time. We had not seen our peak season yet. We're still going through it. We're still reconciling some of the September payments at this time. September through November, or is it August through November seem to be the biggest times for revenues to flow in. It is much better to see this at 72% now. I think our very wet spring was and our concerns for revenue at that time were alleviated by a very dry end of the summer. So
Yeah, and understanding there's a lag in the billing, so if we're going out and reading the meter right now, look back 3 months and that's what it pertains to. So you're looking at, September, October, November, there's dry months, so this will probably be the last big month and it'll start to slow down now.
Yeah. As for expenses, again, bond principal, overtime has been up a little bit as I believe talking with Bart, there were some projects that the staff were working on at the water filtration plant. And I think there's still a few more that the town board will see before the end of the year, just trying to, improve the facilities there and the equipment.
Yeah, there's some overhauling the ozone generator system that has taken some staff time. The generator that while it's installed and it's working, they've had to do some electrical work and install a switch so that they can so that it switches over, I think, automatically or they have the option to switch it manually or automatically. So I know they just recently installed that, so.
And I think they just replaced another one of the filters that were original to the plant as well.
Media filters, yeah.
Yeah, so there's been some good upgrades happening there. And filter plant materials, that is, we tend to place large orders for the filter plant materials when they're needed. Demand went up during August, so there were more materials required. I don't know how many more orders we'll see before year end. I'll see if I can get an update from Laura on that. As for expenses remaining, treatment chemicals, we still have a sizable amount that we will probably go through before the end of the year. We have about 100,000 remaining in the budget. And the Veolia contract, we've only paid about 60% of it, so another 40% remains. And again, the state retirement is looming. So at this point, nothing particularly to think that we're going to come up with savings on expenses. As for the revenues, again, interest earnings, top of the line there, with 140,000 in interest earnings. Just to break down some of the consumption revenues year to date, these are the numbers that have picked up greatly since our last update. General sales, again, we're still lagging there, but we're at 66%, whereas last time I reported we were at about 27% if memory serves. So you can see a big pickup just over the last 3 months. And then Mount Pleasant and IBM are some of the larger consumers that we have that we bill separately, and they've picked up pace. So we are on pace to do well with the general revenues there. Alright,
Okay.
I think I kept my promise of keeping it relatively boring.
Perfectly boring.
Yes.
That was perfectly
That's what we
interesting,
want.
thank
Yes.
you. Does anyone have specific questions? Any others questions? Okay, thank you, Carl.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carl.
Okay, and now we're going to have our third quarterly update for capital projects.
Okay, I provided the board I sent a separate email today just to kind of highlight it. It's included in the packet, but in case you wanna go back and reference it. This is kind of just an outline. I followed along the same outline that Jill used the last couple of years. I'm continuing the outline. I'm not gonna read verbatim because then I'll bore you even more than I used to bore you with finances, but so we'll go over the projects, and if you have any questions, we can talk. So first are some of the FEMA projects that we have, and the first one is the Upper Minkle Dam, which is something we've heard about for years and years. To update the board, the last quarter, we found out that unfortunately the scope of the project that was designed for us by Tectonic, we had some feedback from the Army Corps of Engineers and the New York State DEC, and unfortunately the scope has to be revised. There was some issue with removal of the sediment or non-removal of the sediment. We're required now, once the dam is dewatered, to remove the sediment that was on the bottom, and that has to be taken off site. We originally had a FEMA BRIC grant which was covering most if not all of the costs of this project. The project then I think multiplied by about 3, it's up in the $4 million range, although we don't have a final estimate at the moment. Tectonic is still in the redesign phase. We did recently submit a grant, or about a year ago submitted a grant as part of the state's Environmental Bond Act. Unfortunately, we weren't granted funding through that. In our debrief after the determination, they let us know that we actually had a very strong application. The problem was the volume of applications in the pool of money was too small for the amount of applications they had. So they do expect to be opening that up again soon. They suggest we reapply. They suggested a couple of changes that we could do to strengthen our application, and we intend to do that. We're also continuing to look for other funding sources. At this point, we're just waiting for Tectonic to finish their redesign so that we can finally go on to bid for this project and maybe not complete it, but at least start the actual work on it. Some good news on the next one, the pedestrian bridge replacement on Route 120. The board last week approved McNamee as the consultant or the contractor to install that bridge, as well as the Duck Pond Bridge. I think late last week, Engineer Jeff Gaspar and town staff met with McNamee for the kickoff meeting. Based on the feedback that they got there, we will have a timeline that we can give to the board soon, but it's good to see some movement on that project. That project was originally, I believe that it was one of the I's, whether it was Isaias or Ida, I don't recall, but it was one of the hurricanes that came through the town in about, I think it was 21 or 22. And so we were granted full funding for the project at that time. I think we're still hopeful, and we believe that they will still fully fund the project, although the new estimate on that is higher than the original estimate. But we do meet with them on a regular basis to update the project, and they're aware of the change to the project. So good news there. The Byram Lake Road culvert replacement, some good news there too. We had been waiting, that was in the hands of the New York State DEC for their review. We did receive our comments back from the New York State DEC. Town staff is currently reviewing them. It looks like we may need a small redesign. I think the width of the culvert might be a little small based on what the feedback is. So we did have two other issues that were resolved. We have two properties there that we need consent and release to be able to access the culvert itself. One property we need the access for ongoing maintenance. The other property we need to actually enter the property to do the work. So we did receive approval for both of those. So that project is moving forward. The Shether Road slope stabilization, stormwater improvements, that project was completed over the summer. I left it on here. I will remove it in the next report, but it has been completed and it has now been closed out. The North Bedford Road pump station, we are replacing the generator there, the pumps, the motors, and the motor control center. I think all of that equipment was original to that pump station. There was a very long lead time for the parts for that project. We recently were informed the parts became available and the contractor TAM Enterprises began to mobilize on November 10th. So the work in the fall was going to include pouring the slab, placing the generator on the slab, and I think that's all they're gonna get to this fall. They will pause over the winter and the intention is to remobilize on March 15th. They estimate the completion date to be April 30th on that project. The trenchless water main, this is a replacement of the water main that goes underneath the train station parking lot, under the Sawmill River Parkway and Metro North. And as you can imagine, it's pretty intricate and we need a bunch of different approvals from different authorities to be able to do work in that area. We needed to run some test borings to determine the composition of the earth underneath that, and they need to know that to determine what type of I think boring equipment that they need to build the tunnel. So we've done our two borings. The third test boring, unfortunately, is one that they're requiring us to hand dig, and they're only giving us a few hours to do it, and it's sensitive, it's close to the railroad tracks. So we have the approval for that. We need to, the contractor needed to provide their insurance certificate and they haven't yet done so. So that project is basically designed. We're waiting for the final results and they'll be able to complete the design for that. The cement lining of water mains, Bart has identified a couple different areas. Kathleen Lane, Daly Cross Road, Horseshoe Road, Valley View Road, Brookside Circle, High Point Circle, Lakeview, Adams, and Possum Roads. Staff is currently working on the RFP to complete that work. The Millwood Water Treatment Plant, the heating oil tank replacement project. We're replacing, I think this is our last existing underground oil tank or fuel tank in the town. This will move that to above ground. We just awarded the engineering contract within the last couple of weeks to Lero Engineers to begin the design work for that project. The Quaker Road water main replacement project, so the county has, they're extending the sewer trunk line up Quaker Road. The town is partnering while they already have the road opened, the town will go in and replace the water main there, replacing 6-inch water mains with a 10-inch main. Our project goes from Hunt's Place to Quaker Friends Meeting House. That has kind of been stalled. The county has told us they're not going to begin work on that until the sewer relief project on Joan Corwin Way, just because of the traffic disruption and the disruption to the neighbors that will be in that area. The Joan Corwin Way project, they continued to push the date back. This is a county project, it's not the town's. That originally the bids were supposed to be returned by June. They have extended it 4 or 5 times. The bids are now due back in December, so hopefully we'll have a better idea once that project starts to be able to work on the timing for the Quaker Road water main replacement. I mentioned a moment ago the Millwood water treatment plant, the generator replacement, that is there, it's been installed. We were just getting some final wiring and supplies to complete the switching project. That's expected to be closed out by the end of the year. Our electrician is working on that. The Chapac solar installation, the panels are installed, that's complete. We had a couple change orders to add some snow guards and critter guards to kind of protect the panels and to protect the snow guards. We realized that the snow could build up on the panels and then fall on somebody below, so we have snow guards put in. Those were completed. The panels are in place and are operational. We currently have an issue with the Wi-Fi connection there. They had to hardwire it and something happened to the connection, so we're not getting feedback, we're not getting the data on what we're generating and what we're saving there. We should see it in the electric bill because it is generating, the solar panels are working, but we just don't have the feedback to register how much that is, so.
I mean, can that be fixed?
Yeah, the electrician's out there, they're working on that currently, yeah.
It's not the Wi-Fi to the whole,
It's not,
The Chapac?
no, cause the Wi-Fi works to the Chapac, so what it is, they couldn't reach where the panels are, or the electrical panel for the panels. The Wi-Fi, the connection wasn't great, so they decided to hardwire that in, and for whatever reason, it was working for a short period of time and then it stopped working. So we have our town electrician, Dan Rubino's out there troubleshooting to try to determine what we can do. So the other project going on at the Chapac is the drainage improvements were completed, that parking lot, the handicap parking lot was completed, and we're waiting to complete that final walkway. And the board will remember, we actually had to remove the engineer from that project. We could not get an acceptable design for that pathway. There's a slope on that, and each time they designed it, and our town staff, Miguel Gabriel in particular from town, it was not acceptable. So working with our town attorney, we removed them from the project and we actually designed that in-house. The board recently completed the change order based off of those revised plans, and DMB construction was expected to begin yesterday, based on my notes.
Do you have an estimate on how long it'll take? It's been looking like that for a long time.
It has, I don't think there's much work to do, I think a couple weeks at most.
Okay.
But that was the problem, the slope was too great, and every time they went out there and measured it, and we could not understand why the engineer, who was a licensed engineer, was not understanding what the problem was. So ultimately, we agreed to disagree and they walked away and we designed it in-house.
And also in that area, there is, I think it's Con Ed, they put a very ugly,
Oh, yes.
I'm not sure what it's called.
I know, the green
Okay.
box, I don't know
It's a
what,
green box and they decided to, put it front and center.
I know.
And I'm just hopeful that we can do something to mask that, whether that's a monitor like advertising upcoming shows. We've talked about that before, but it would be great. I don't know, maybe the arts and culture could think of a
well,
great
actually,
idea.
I've already planted the seed with the BAB,
Okay,
yeah.
that
Some
would be great.
plantings.
Plantings for like as Vicky was saying, a screen that,
Okay.
a monitor that says what upcoming shows, it'll be like a point of advertisement and excitement for what's going on in Chapac. Maybe, I think you said Walter could maybe beautify it.
Walter's pretty good, I mean, I thought we were talking about maybe some fencing, like he did over at the train station
Yeah.
where they put the heat pump in and it was kinda unsightly, so Walter put together some fencing there.
But if we could camouflage it with a screen and something actually useful, 'cause it would be great for people to be driving by, walking by and seeing upcoming shows, and
Yeah,
that would attract, more,
Yeah.
more attendance.
yeah, I think so. We would just have to be aware. I don't know what access they need to that,
Right,
what
right.
what types of clearances they need to access that box. So I think we'd have to look
Yeah,
at that.
and maybe we could put plantings around it too.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you, Jen, I'm glad people are starting to think about it.
Yeah,
It's an eyesore.
yeah, it is.
The Millwood Park, the ADA access to the playground, that project has been closed out. All the bills have been paid for that, the walkway looks great. The chap line, great news, updated the board last week. They were on site again Thursday and Friday, walking that with Dennis. Dennis was happy with the consultants that they had. He thought they were very knowledgeable. He did think that they identified a few more wetlands than we thought to be existing, but Dennis didn't feel like that was a problem. It was just to be incorporated into the design. So I think they're done with their field work now for this fall, and they'll go back to the office and begin the design work for the project. We'll get a final surveying report, I think, in December.
Okay, Rob, just noting that in your notes, the notes don't reflect the TAP grant. It says TAP grant being applied for, but we did receive it. So, for next time, you might wanna update the notes.
Oh,
Yep.
that was just the listing of the project, yeah,
Okay,
I've truncated this because there were several different quarters and you couldn't read it if I put it on an 8.5 by 11, so
okay.
yeah,
Just so
okay,
you know,
okay.
if someone is reading this, they
Mhm.
might think that we've just received the 500,000.
Okay. The vac haul truck, we did receive that, it is operational, and our WQIP funding has been applied for, and we're just awaiting payment on that. The Millwood sidewalk, and I must have missed that in my notes because I do have an update on the Millwood sidewalks. That is another project that's finally moving forward. So Con Ed has been out there in the last couple of weeks completing their utility pole replacement. So we need that in order to be able to complete the final design. I think we're at 95%, but that project looks to be going forward, and based on conversation with Jeff Gaspar, our town engineer, we expect to go out to bid for that project actually this winter. So that was something that's been delayed for quite a while. State DOT, there were approvals needed from them, approvals needed from Con Ed, quite a bit of work, but that project looks like it is moving forward.
The DOT really held it up.
They did, it was
Long
held up
time.
in DOT
Yeah.
real estate, there were some property takings that had to happen and the real estate division had to review them. We actually so much as cut a check at one point because we thought we had the delineation of the property that we were acquiring. And then they changed their mind and reduced the amount of property, and we had to avoid the check and go, it's been a process, but it does look like it's moving forward now. The next couple projects I'm gonna talk about are New York State DOT projects that are happening in Newcastle, not town projects, but projects to be aware of. So the first is the culvert replacement on Route 117 in Old House Lane. They were originally expected to complete that work in 2025. They have not, and this is state DOT has to submit plans to Westchester County for a temporary water line, and that hasn't even happened yet, so they will need Department of Health approval before they can even finish plans. So now we're looking at probably spring to summer for any work to happen there. I did confirm when that work is done, it will be a full road closure for some period of time, probably several weeks, while they work on that, so. We had a meeting with DOT several months ago, other meetings as we get closer to the project to better inform the town of exactly what the closure will be, what the detours will be, what they can expect.
Several weeks closure of 117 at
Yeah.
Old House Lane.
Yeah.
Well,
If they're working during the school year, is
We're
the
hoping that
schools
the
aren't
work
able
is
to-
gonna happen over the summer, they're aware of that and we've made that request to them. And the other project that we're working on, there's no update, but we believe, we've been told that the two projects wouldn't happen simultaneously and that the Old House Lane project would be first. There's a culvert replacement at the Sawmill River Parkway by Quaker Bridge Road and the Horace Greeley statue. Again, no update on that right now, but I think once they finalize the first project, they'll probably start working on plans for the second. I mentioned a moment ago in the other section, the relief sewer on Joan Corwin Way. That project, again, the bid opening has not happened yet. The earliest any construction would happen would be the spring of 2026, and it's probably not looking that soon at this point. And I mentioned a moment ago in the other section as well, the extension of the county trunk line. I mentioned that because that was the town partnering with that, so not expected till 27 or 28 at this point. I think next we have some federal government projects. That is the Sawmill River Parkway grade crossing elimination. New York State received a grant, I think about $2.6 million for the design of this project. We have not had an update yet from New York State. Supervisor Tip and myself met with Governor Hochul's local representative Lou Powell a couple weeks ago, and he offered to look into this for us and see if he can get an update. So we'll share that when he gets back to us.
Were they supposed to have some sort of kickoff meeting and
They
that
were.
never took place and it was postponed and never
Correct.
rescheduled?
Yeah, it was scheduled, and then that was the last update we had from the state, was that there was a kickoff meeting scheduled that was canceled and not rescheduled to this point. Okay, next section or final section are the in-house projects that we're currently working on. The first is the feasibility study for an RFP for the sidewalk along Millwood Road between North County Trailhead and Gedney Park. That is something we're hoping to get completed in 2026. We've looked at that. It will probably, based on the study that we had, require a design that would move the roadway slightly, and we've got to see if we can get approval for that. So that's why we need a feasibility study there, and our engineering department will work on that.
Rob, do you recall, what was our, I guess a temporary conclusion that we would stick to the side of the road, the Gedney Park side of the road?
I actually think it
Somehow.
was the other side, which was problematic too. There weren't great solutions there. I think the Gedney Park side, I think the house just north of it, I think that was causing a problem with the driveway, if I recall.
It's too bad because you could do a road through the park.
Yeah. And they were also, I think they need to do a survey to determine exactly where the right of way there is and where there's leeway, where there's room to work on the project. We talked about, I think, last meeting or the meeting before, the sidewalk improvements on 117. Phase 1, we have already, the survey's been complete and we're awaiting plans from the design engineer. That's just the area right around the mobile station. And we've partnered with the contractor that the firehouse is using. They will be, once the design engineer completes the plans for that, we will work with the contractor to start developing a timeline. And then Jeff did an in-house feasibility study. We're waiting till we finish the first phase and then we're gonna take a look at the second phase and kind of get a cost estimate on that. And I think we need to do some surveying work. Jeff has an estimate of where he thinks the sidewalk would go, but we need a complete survey to be certain. The next one's been on here for a little while. There was some progress in the last couple weeks. This is the drainage around Ibiza and the Family Bridges. That building, unfortunately, when we get real heavy rains that come down King Street, he was seeing some flooding in the building there. And staff went out there the last time that they got a significant rainfall and kind of noticed that it looked like some of the catch basins were collecting debris, and that was kind of preventing the water from draining off and going up into the sidewalk. So they're paying special attention to that now. Once they freed the catch basin of the debris, the flooding was kind of alleviated, so they're just gonna keep an eye on that. Doesn't look right now like we have to redesign anything, but we're gonna keep an eye on it. The proposed sewer service at Amsterdam Park, we did receive a CREST grant, the amount of $250,000 for this. The board approved in October Batty and Watson to do the survey work, so we're gonna begin, once we get the survey work, we'll look to design that sewer line. That's the first step, then we'll be able to install the bathrooms at Amsterdam, and that CREST grant also included some improvements and some finishing on the upper level at that house at Amsterdam. The next couple,
I always have to say, that'll be great for the campers.
it will be excellent for the campers when we can install a couple bathrooms there, and if we're able to finish that top area off, that will help us out in inclement weather, that they'll be able to go into that building. You know, right now, we're having to use one of the schools when we have bad weather, and we're having to bus the kids there and sit there. So if we have some facilities indoors there, that'll be helpful to them. Next couple, we're talking about town hall, and I'll probably jump ahead and say that we did the town hall needs assessment, and town staff, in particular Jeff Gaspar, the engineer, Sabrina and myself, reviewed 7 responses to the RFP. We did hear from 2 of the candidates last week, and we will be making a selection to perform the needs assessment. That said, some of the other stuff that needs to happen in town hall that we're already aware of, the roof and the HVAC replacements, expansion of any facilities here, mechanical replacements, parking lot improvements, these have all been put on hold pending the results of this needs assessment. I will point out, Supervisor Tip, I will have a proposal for you. We are working on some short-term improvements to the parking lot that don't involve repaving, but just involve making it look a little bit better and changing the circulation a bit. So Jeff Gaspar and Miguel Fabril, they presented a couple of plans last week to Bart and myself for our review, and we're gonna kind of pick one and we'll bring it to the board and show them what we're looking for. So it does include greening some of that area that's covered in the item 4 right now, and just changing the circulation and formalizing some of the parking spots there.
Okay, I think we'll be very interested in seeing that.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it definitely looks good, and I asked them to include maybe some plantings too on the other side of that.
Okay.
Okay, the recycling and parks garage building repairs, the board awarded that to the contractor SNP on September 9th, 2025. Work on that is expected to be completed by the end of the year. The Chapac boiler replacement project, that has been completed. The town hall boiler replacement, that has been completed as well. Renovation for ADA compliance of the town hall bathrooms. So last summer we did complete the men's room up here. I think there are 2 more bathrooms that they're looking to upgrade. I think one, I think actually they're both in the police department, and Walter should be getting to that in 2026. Our most recent, our second most recent CREST grant award is for the replacement of the Amsterdam Park playground. Ike recommended that because the summer camp has been using that quite a bit. It's an older playground, and so we got a $100,000 CREST grant to replace that. We should be working on that in the spring of 2026. And the last thing I'll mention, and I said second most recent CREST grant, we met with Mike Wolfenson and Stefan Yarbek today regarding the 9/11 memorial. They have secured a $60,000 grant.
Wow.
That's
That's amazing
Fabulous.
news.
Very glad to hear it.
Yep, so he said he just got notification yesterday and I saw the letter, so we will work.
That's
That
great.
comes courtesy of Senator Harkam, as did the other CREST grant.
Excellent.
So that's fantastic.
We will be sure to thank Senator Harkin.
He has we had the heat pumps, the motorcycles, he's been good to us, so
Yes.
so that's great. So we met with Stefan and Michael today.
And so has Assemblyman Burdick.
Of course,
We get
of
grants
course,
from him too, so I just
Absolutely.
wanna say,
absolutely. But this $60,000 award was really unexpected because that wasn't something that was put forth. I credit Mike Wolfenson
Yeah.
for that. That was something he did independent of town staff and
very
he
good work.
secured
Now,
that.
is he going, well, I guess this will be a conversation, will he be using the money in place of what we budgeted, or is it
They-
for extras?
Of course not. Their proposal, and I think he's gonna come back, I think he'll be prepared to come on December 2nd and show the board some of the renderings that we saw today. They are happy now because if you remember, he had the original scope of his project was around $125,000. We
Yes.
authorized $60,000 from town funds, and now he is hoping to be able to complete the full scope of his project.
Right,
So-
I mean, I don't mind, we have the budget and he
Yeah.
promised and if he wants the bells and whistles, that's fine. The only thing I will say, we'll talk about it when he comes, is I would like to avoid anything that complicates the maintenance going forward.
So that was a
And
good
increases
discussion.
that cost and perhaps, leads to some problems that we had originally.
Yeah, so that was a discussion that we had today and he, Stefan assures me that, well, they don't want that either because Stefan now is coming back, I don't know, 10 or 12 years later to redesign this project. So they talked about a couple of the things. One of them is that the filter was getting clogged with leaves, so they have a way to prevent that, to remove, I don't know what it does, I think he said it chops up the leaves, or in any case, it doesn't allow the filter to be blocked by the leaves. The other problem was the pump, the way that it was situated last time. It was often seizing and freezing up because it lacked the water supply and it was running without a water supply coming through. So they've taken some of the notes from what didn't work last time and incorporated them into what we hope is a better project this time around.
Okay.
So
I just wanna be sure that they do a proper inspection, because those sound like problems that should have been caught.
I think so. So
I just wanna make sure that
to hear them
we don't
talk,
run into different problems, but for the same reasons.
agreed. So they're working with Ike and his staff, they're working with Jeff Gaspar and his staff. So there's a lot of town input this time. I'm not sure what happened last time around.
Okay.
One of the things they weren't happy with was last time around. The town is required, we have a procurement policy, so they went out to bid. They didn't like the vendor that we selected and didn't believe they did proper work, so we'll have to follow the same policy this time with the procurement. And hopefully, you're required to pick the lowest responsible bidder. We'll do our diligence and make sure that the company we select has experience doing this type of work. If they don't, we'll be able to disqualify them, so hopefully we'll get somebody that can do this.
Okay.
Rob, can I just ask, regarding the in-house projects, I know we talked about something about the downstairs at Chapac, where the bathrooms and dressing rooms are,
Yep.
and there was like 2/3 wall and whatnot.
Yep.
I think you said that was being worked on, or
It is being worked on, so actually Rachel brought that up with Walter. He came up with a proposal They're gonna finish the floor. I think they're gonna leave it as concrete, but kind of like polished concrete. And he is going to do the lower paneling and then finish those walls. And the issue, what happened is, if you remember that area flooded. And the flood had to do with the drainage, and we think when Toll Brothers was working out there, the drainage line was hit. It was kind of a he said, she said, nobody took responsibility, and it was difficult to pinpoint, but we didn't want to install that while they were still out there working. They're done working in that area, so we can reinstall the drywall and then finish the walls downstairs. So that is on Walter's radar, and he's working on that.
Okay, thanks.
That's all I have.
That's it? Okay.
That's it. You want
Thank you,
more?
Rob.
You all are very busy.
That was well done.
Thanks.
I just wanna say, for the past 2 years, since I've been town supervisor, I've asked for these quarterly reports. Those had stopped for a while, but now we're having quarterly financial reports and quarterly capital projects reports, which we had usually at the beginning of the year, and then it was really difficult to keep track of what was going on.
Yeah.
So I think this has been really organized and very helpful for the board, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're up to administrative items.
Not a lot tonight. We have
Is
a
this
retroactive
additional
payment
or
of claims,
Additional?
November 7th. We have the adoption of minutes from October 2025, adoption of monthly reports for October 2025. We have a resolution authorizing the establishment of a petty cash account. The town really hasn't had that in the past, based on guidance from the controller's office. We'd like to establish a $500 petty cash account. And it's really difficult sometimes if we just need something quick from the hardware store or something quick. It's hard to be able to, somebody has to go and buy it and get reimbursed for it. So if we just have a petty cash system where somebody returns a receipt, they get reimbursed out of the petty cash, and we're able to do it. These are for small expenditures,
Who keeps track of that?
the controller's office will,
Okay.
Carl and Diana will keep track of that. We have an authorization to use town vehicle for ski trips. So they're asking for authorization to either use a town vehicle, which has been done in the past, or to reimburse a personal vehicle for the mileage expense. And what happens is when we send the ski trips up, we do have 5 different chaperones on each of the buses. But what we do have is a staff member that takes a vehicle up kind of in advance of the trip. They go to make sure everything's set up, all the, payments are complete, the logistics happen. And it's important also to have another vehicle there in case there's some kind of injury or something that happens where somebody has to stay with a camper, and that's happened in the past. We've had instances where skiing where I think somebody broke a leg, I think somebody got a concussion one time. In those instances, it's nice to have a staff member be able to stay with that camper or accompany them to wherever they're receiving treatment, wait while the parents are coming up. So it's important to have if everybody rode the bus, they all go home together, and so this makes it easy. So we've done that in the past, and we're just asking the board to approve that once again. Jeremy, for the final time,
What is it?
we have auction bid results. 2009 Altima for $2,000 and a 2013 F-150 for $2,650.
I'll need the final tally on my last day.
I'll give you the final tally. I put it on my screen and I didn't print it because I anticipated that question.
You'll give it to me later.
I will give it to you. Authorization to approve the 2026 refuse and recycling schedule and the SAB insert. This is an annual mailing that they send out with the town's refuse and recycling schedule. The SAB always has to include something in that mailing, and that was part of the packet. We have the authorization to reimburse plumbing permit for the building department. This was just a duplicate payment. We're just returning the second payment. And we have the authorization to approve 2 different fences. So you may or may not have noticed there's some metal fencing along the duck pond that's kind of leaning and doesn't look good, and may not be particularly safe. So we've got a quotation from Eagle Fence for $6,900 to complete that replacement. And we've got the split rail fence at Gedney Park that's around the playground there. That's in disrepair. It's older wood and it's kind of rotting, so they're gonna replace that. The estimate for that is $14,720, and that's to Yabu Fencing. And that's all I have for administrative items.
Okay, thank you, Rob. That's it for the work session. So may I have a motion to close the work session, to adjourn the work session and open the town board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Rob, any announcements?
The only announcement is next week is Thanksgiving, so the town hall will be closed on the 27th and 28th, the Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
Next week.
And that takes me to the supervisor's report, and I was also going to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. We will not be having a public meeting next week, so happy Thanksgiving to everyone. And the one thing I like to say about Thanksgiving is everything in moderation, including moderation. And that is from Oscar Wilde. So it's very good advice for Thanksgiving. I would like to let everyone know, as you know, that we announced the formation of an economic advisory task force some weeks ago. We received very robust set of responses to that. We received 22 applications. We've started interviewing, and we anticipate the interviews will go through early December. So we will, hope to convene by mid-December. We'll be very close to the holidays. So I would anticipate that the task force would convene starting next January, because we'll be hitting on the holidays then. So where we have great applicants, it's too bad we can't have everyone. The task force is limited to up to 11 people. So I just wanna let everyone know that we are in progress with that. I also want to announce that this year in observance of International Human Rights Day, we'll be having a program co-sponsored by the Holocaust and Human Rights Committee and the Committee on Inclusion and Belonging. It's a program called Letters from Anne and Martin. And it's a 40-minute theater performance regarding the life and experiences of Anne Frank and Martin Luther King Jr. And it should be very interesting in the fact that they were both born in the same year. But their experiences obviously are very different and span different decades, but it's going to be about their experiences regarding living in a climate of hate and the importance of social justice in the world. So that should be very interesting, and I hope people attend. And on Friday, December 5th, we are going to have another Bridge Gallery reveal. This will be the 4th mural reveal, and in a public mural project sponsored by the Arts and Culture Committee. So thank you to Arts and Culture, and thank you, Jen, for being the liaison to Arts and Culture, being part of that effort. There was a mistake in the past newsletter. It said that this reveal would be at 4 o'clock, but it will actually be at 4:30. So please don't get there too early. It'll be at 4:30. Under the bridge, you'll meet the local artist who has painted this 4th mural, Mara Van Fleet, and it'll be an opportunity to meet her and celebrate our reveal. And right after that, the town will be having the Chamber of Commerce sponsored Wine Around Town from 5 to 8 p.m. So you'll have a chance to shop local, get holiday gifts, and enjoy the lights, the holiday lights. So that should be great. We hope people come to town and enjoy all that it has to offer. And I do have a question about the holiday lights. So they look great, and we were wondering when the snowflakes are coming up.
I thought they were doing those.
They're not up yet, so
I
I was
told
wondering,
that
do they come up after Thanksgiving or Is it just, you know,
I would have to
the
check with
stage?
Bart, it may just be timing, I
Yeah.
don't know what his guys, I will get an update tomorrow, I thought they were working on those,
okay, just wondering. Alrighty. Okay, that's it for my supervisor's report, unless anyone wants to report something that I haven't. No, okay. Okay, Rob, any administrators report?
No, I don't really have an update on anything right now.
Okay, alright, that brings us to public comment period. Anyone with a public comment, please come up to the microphone, identify yourself and where you live. Anyone for public comment? Not in the audience, okay, any hands raised online?
No hands are raised.
Okay, no hands online either, so that will close the public comment period. Let's see, Rob, you've gone over all of the items on the consent agenda and the proposed actions, right? Okay, so let's start with the consent agenda.
I move to adopt the items 1 through 8 as listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
And
Aye.
I move to retroactively approve the payment of claims in the amount of $750,297.99 listed on the summary AP check register and detail voucher detail report, both dated November 7th, 2025. Checks were printed and distributed to each claimant listed on Friday, November 7th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead.
Okay. I move to accept the resignation, of Richard Brownell as an alternate member of the planning board effective November 5th, 2025. We thank Dick for his years of dedicated service, and he certainly did so, and we really are incredibly grateful.
Second.
Okay, yeah, we really are very grateful. He spent many years on the planning board. I don't think we have a number, but I do wanna honor his service, very dedicated service. So thank you, Dick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize the following reappointments to the planning board as reflected below.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Go ahead, one more.
I move to authorize the appointment of Jennifer Weitzman as a member of the Beautification Advisory Board for a 3-year term effective December 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2028.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize the appointment of Carl Schlegel from acting comptroller to comptroller at the annual salary of $173,000 effective November 24th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to authorize the waiver to tax penalties for SBL 81-11-2-47 for the 2024-2025 second half school tax due and payable without penalty through January 31st, 2025, and the 2025 town county tax due and payable without penalty through April 30th, 2025. For the total amount of $2,021.52.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to authorize to waive the rental fees of the community center for the Chabad of Armonk to host its annual Hanukkah celebration and menorah lighting on Sunday, December 14th, 2025 from 2:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody.